Hi, everybody. For those new to the channel, I'm Corey Rennie. I'm the unemployable counselor, and I want to thank you all for checking out my interview with Donna Brooks. So Donna is the CEO of the Y, and we had a really good and frank conversation about addictions and mental health, the homeless, social issues, how all that stuff fits together. We talked about intergenerational trauma, all the factors that come into play to make someone homeless or to create that environment to which people end up homeless, might be a better way to put it. I just want to appreciate the time Donna took to speak to us today. It was a very informative interview. I know I walked away feeling like there's a lot more I know about the subject, and it was nice to get a behind the scenes look of what's actually going on to help combat this social issue, as opposed to just thinking what the hell's going on, right? Why aren't we doing something? No, stuff is being done, but it takes time and it's a process, and Donna was very kind enough to walk us through that and be a guide through that quagmire that can sometimes be red tape. Okay, so again, I want to thank you all for checking this out, and please enjoy my interview with the CEO of the YWCA and all of its facets in Prince Albert, Donna Brooks. Enjoy.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Corey Rennie, and I'm here with Donna Brooks. She's the CEO of the YWCA and all its many organizations and tendrils that go into society. I think we could say, hey, for the community, you guys have a lot of good stuff going on. And one of the things that I know that my subscribers have been talking about is the homeless issue, and that's something I'm sure you're quite familiar with, right?
Very much so.
Absolutely. So I guess I'm just gonna. I know you like to just jump right into things, so I'll just jump right into it. So, like, what's the deal with all the homelessness then?
Well, it's the homeless situation has somewhat been brewing for a number of years, and there's a lot of moving parts in it. So there was a study done. There's been a few studies done, but there's a number of factors that play into this. So one of the things that played into it that people don't think about is all the aging buildings that have been torn down. So if you people don't think about this one, but if you look around the city, they tore down the Snake Pit, and they tore down the Avenue Hotel, and they tore down the Broadway, and they tore down a lot of old buildings. Now, they were buildings that probably needed to be tore down, don't get me wrong. They were bad buildings.
Yeah.
However, that's where a lot of the people would go, and that's where they would sleep there. That's a piece people don't think about that piece.
No, you're right, because I remember years ago when they tore down the Snake Pit.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden there's people like at other places saying, hey man, and all of a sudden we're overrun by all these folks, and we're not sure if they're going to cause damage or
right.
They look kind of shady or whatever the stereotype was they were using then. But that makes a lot of sense.
So that's a factor that people don't think about. We also have our intergenerational trauma. A lot of our homeless people are Indigenous.
Yeah.
And that relates back to the intergenerational trauma of Indigenous schools. That one is talked about a lot more. That one's a lot more out there. But it's a very real piece to this, because with the intergenerational trauma come addictions. So there's a lot of addictions associated with that. We also have systems that are overrun and broken. So our mental health system is broken.
Yeah.
So there are people with significant mental health issues that can't get into the wards. They can't get into places because there isn't enough. So we have broken systems.
No, and you raise a good point, because I mean, like, I know, like, from working with a lot of those different fields, a lot of time it's a band-aid of a band-aid.
Right.
Might not be for not want of motivation or effort, but they just can't because of the way the system
Right.
is
We have
designed,
some broken
right?
systems. Yeah. And then when we threw COVID on it and CIS, where they stopped doing direct payments to the landlord, that was the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
That just moved it to a critical point.
Well, it's because it's true, because I know when we had a conversation before, and one of the things that I noticed too is, like, I grew up here all my life, right? So I can remember there's always street folks to a certain degree, but it seems like since around COVID, it seems like it just kind of blew up. And now when you go downtown, it seems like there's people in doorways. Like it's more of a visible aspect than maybe it was before. But like you said, I never thought about that. It makes sense, right? You tear down those buildings, and they gotta go somewhere, like, you know, and they're not exercise with the building, right? But yeah,
But it's that all those things together, so it's not one thing, it's everything.
Yeah.
And it created the perfect storm for homelessness, not just in Prince Albert, not just in Saskatchewan, but across the country.
Yeah.
It created the perfect storm, and now we have a crisis. So now we have a significant homeless crisis in Prince Albert, in Saskatchewan, and in Canada.
Yeah, no, you raise a good point. This isn't just a problem specific to Prince Albert. You go to Saskatoon, they're saying the same stuff. I know we've got lots of feedback on the stuff we've been doing from places like Regina and even Moose Jaw, where it's like, hey, we got the same issue here, man. This isn't, we're not, you know, at least we're not alone in this, but at the same time, everyone is fighting the same struggles. And you raise a good point too. That's so multifaceted. Like, where does a guy start then if you address that issue?
That's what's so difficult. And so with us at the Y, homelessness is a big part of our mandate, absolutely. Yeah. We have a continuum of supports. So we have our shelter services. The building we're sitting in right now is our shelter for women, children, and youth.
And you're always full, I would imagine.
Always full. And then we have 12 beds at our house. That are for homeless women, but we also have our house recovery center, which is our pre and post addiction beds, and we have some mental health beds.
Okay. So do you guys work closely then with like the health region and stuff like that with that stuff? Okay.
Yes. And then we have our stepping stone shelter. But the problem with the shelter system is the demand far exceeds the supply.
Someone's always kind of left in the cold.
So
quite literally, right?
Yeah, so the demand exceeds the supply. Yeah. So you have far more people that are homeless than the shelter system can meet the need. So that creates a lot of visibility of visible homeless. Yeah. You also have, and I'm not afraid to say this, a justice system that's extremely broken. So you have a justice system that's extremely broken. Yeah. We all see the little backpack boys running around. Yeah. You know, they're running around fueling the addictions, fueling that. You have another subsection of a group that they don't want to use the shelters. They don't want to use they just don't want to have anything to do with, and probably because a number of them have been oppressed for years. And it's very frustrating to deal with some of the government red tape and the rules. So that's another population group that really doesn't want to have anything to do with shelter society. They would just rather have encampments and
exactly. We'll take our chances here because I either been to the government or heaven forbid there was a trauma that happened, then all of a sudden, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So there's so many facets to it. What we try to do at the Y, so we have the shelter system and we also have our supportive housing system. So we have the shelter, because housing's a continuum.
Yes.
With the rough sleeping being on the street or encampments, which is at the lowest end of the continuum. Okay. The highest end of the continuum is home ownership.
Okay.
It's a continuum. So it's a whole spectrum. It's not just.
Well, and then the way you described it then, like for me, I'm thinking, okay, it makes sense then, because if they're viewing this, so when we get to this point where you're at the low end of that spectrum, right? So you got to figure, like you said, you got addiction, you got mental health, you got, you know, the justice stuff, you know, you have just, you know, the burnt bridges from having to go through all those programs. So you got a guy living in an encampment to get to home ownership. For him to even make it to the next step would be hard because a lot of those, I'll just say it, broken agencies, and it's true, where you have to jump through so many hoops. And when you got someone who's with addiction, mental health, and now they're here, how do you expect them to make those leaps in a positive way? It's like setting them up to fail before.
It absolutely is. Like if you think about, so I don't have a lot of patience if I have to, I'm a homeowner and I have a good job. I'm a homeowner. I don't have a lot of patience when I have to deal with call centers, for example. I just don't. Yeah. I hate calling them. Yeah. I don't like calling them.
Yeah, fair enough.
And they're very frustrating.
Yeah.
You think of somebody out there that has very limited coping skills and they're having to deal with stuff like that. And every time they turn around, it's another roadblock for them and another roadblock for them and another roadblock for them. Gets very overwhelming and frustrating.
And even just like cognitive levels, right? Like with the amount of drug use and with the mental health, and a lot of them, especially like you mentioned, the intergenerational abuse. Like
absolutely.
That stuff, like that is huge. Like I know from working like from working with addicted individuals, right? Like that plays a huge part. And like I'm a firm believer, okay, like what's the first domino to fall here? And a lot of these guys and gals, when they were born, like they were born into that. Like no one says, hey, I want to live on the street, or I want to sell my body, or whatever the case may be. Like no one, that's not a goal for someone. They're here because of some sort of reasons, a lot of times external.
They're born
right?
with a deck stacked against them most
exactly.
of the time.
Exactly, right? And that would make it, so working with this population, then what are some strategies you think that can help them move even from like the encampment to the next step in the queue, so to speak?
Well, first of all, there needs to be more shelter spaces, because there isn't enough shelter spaces. So if you can't get one, if you can't meet somebody's basic needs, you can't move them along the continuum.
And a lot of them are 24 hours, right? Like some of the shelters?
All our shelters are 24 hours.
Oh, right on. Okay, good. Okay, good.
So all our shelters are 24 hours.
Okay.
But
it doesn't mean that, everyone gets served though.
No, because the demand far exceeds the supply. So, unfortunately, we have to turn away so many people. And if you can't meet a basic need, you can't move somebody along the continuum. Because they first have to have their basic needs met. They have to have the food, the shelter, and the sense of belonging. They have to have that.
Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, they need that. And
Absolutely.
you can't move someone along the continuum. If you can address those three things, you can start to move them along the continuum of housing. So there are, in the city, agencies have housing support workers funded by Reaching Home through coordinated access, and they will help find people housing. We have our Homeward Bound program that has supportive housing. So if we can get the basic needs met, then you can start to move people along the continuum. It's just like the emergency room. If you go, the shelter's like the emergency room. If you go to the emergency room, they're gonna triage you and they're gonna try to move you. But if it's overwhelmed, it's the same thing with us. So you can't move people along because you don't have enough beds.
And that makes sense. It's like really swimming against the current, except the current's like a typhoon, right?
And then,
you know what I mean, coming in.
And then the whole trying to get a homeless shelter with enough beds is a whole other frustrating endeavor.
That's what I was gonna ask. Cause I mean, because you'd think obviously enough people are talking about this that the city must recognize this as an issue.
Well,
right?
And I'm not gonna just blame the city, because it's not just the city. It's such a complex issue. It's nobody wants a homeless shelter in their backyard. Yeah. Regardless, so it's not just the city.
So and why is that? Is it just the fear of, oh my gosh, or is it the stigma of it?
It's a stigma. It's a fear. It's there is a fear that the shelter people are going to come cause problems in their yard, but it's generally the people that cause problems are generally not the shelter users.
That's what I was gonna say, because like they're judging everybody by the actions of just a few, right?
Yes.
Like
yes.
I know we saw a video where I took a video the other day where someone cut a hole in the fence, right?
Yes.
It's not everybody that runs up, hey man, let's cut a hole in the fence, right? It's just the few that do it, and then but it taints the whole pool then, because you're thinking, oh man, they're all doing this stuff, and they're not. Like some people just literally want a cup of coffee and a warm place to sleep, right?
Exactly, and that's the majority of the clients. Yeah. Like, are all clients innocent? No, we have. And you know what? The clients that are the real troublemakers usually end up getting banned because they've assaulted our staff or assaulted another individual.
There is a definite there's a definite line, because there's the folks and sometimes people are just jerks. Doesn't matter what they're doing, right? And those get treated accordingly. But you got at the same time, you got people that really need the service. Like you got a lot of young people out there.
Oh, there's so many people.
And
so we're in a situation where we don't have enough beds, so we have to triage and take the most vulnerable people.
Yeah, and then I know it's almost like picking between your kids. You know
what
I mean?
It's awful.
Where it's like, okay, sorry, you're a little more neat tonight. You got to go out in the -10.
And ideally, we don't want to turn anyone away. Even the violent people, we wish there was a place they could go. Yeah. Because we can't take violent people. We can't take people that assault.
Well, it's a risk for everybody, right? Maybe it's I get that.
And we can't. If they're a risk to our staff or others, we just can't take them.
Well, and shelters need to be a safe place, right?
It needs to be a safe place. That's even in our contract for it. It has to be a safe place. So there's some some people that we can't take for that reason, and there's no option for that. So
I know I worked at places too where it's like, okay, if it gets -40, if someone comes to the door, then let them in. I'm like, okay, well, -35 is still pretty damn chilly out there, you know, and you know, that's what I mean. And you get your hand slapped, things like that, because they're worried about, well, if it gets too much, then more people will come in, and then it'll be like, okay, let's not take away from the fact is if they go out there, they're probably gonna die.
well, and that's very hard on the staff. So here we have a shelter. There's 45 beds. The beds are all, there's no room to even have one more bed. Like there's no room.
It's to the roof.
It's to the roof. There's absolutely no room. And now you have winter and you have people coming to the door.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult on the staff.
Yeah. So I've been in mental health for a while, and I remember it seems like long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. I remember when we had 4 people die over the winter.
That was in 2020, the winter of 2012, 2013. Because
Yes.
it was after that we lobbied the government and we were able to get a little bit of funding, and we opened 10 beds in the basement of our house.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
To meet that. And then the timeline is we had those 10 beds and the need just started increasing. When COVID happened, that's when we went to the exhibition center.
Yeah.
And the need again kept increasing. And it's kind of been a frustrating battle over the years lobbying the government for funding for a homeless shelter. So we finally win the battle of funding for a homeless shelter, and then nobody wants it in their backyard.
I know it's
like
it is, and I remember years ago when they were building they wanted to build a youth treatment center. It was the same issue where they wanted to go to Birch Hills, they wanted to go to Buckland, all these different places.
Right.
And everyone's like, nope, not in my backyard. Well, like, what do you think's gonna happen? Like we don't even know what's gonna happen. Like, nope, we're not even taking the risk. The risk of what? If it was your kid, or if it was your uncle, or your, you know what I mean? Wouldn't you want them in a safe place? You wouldn't be comfortable with them in a house in your block, like that kind of stuff.
So we worked really closely with PAGC and us.
Okay.
And the YWCA worked really closely for a couple of years trying to find a spot.
Nice.
And we looked at so many different places, and whatever we'd bring up would basically.
Well, okay, so tell me about, because I know you went before city council right in the summer, if I'm not mistaken.
So the only place we could actually just apply for the permit, we could only apply for a discretionary use permit if we actually owned the property or had a signed lease for a property. So we had looked at a number of locations over the last 4 years.
Okay.
And every time we'd bring something up, there was kickback. We were working with the city on a piece of property by the viaduct.
Okay.
And we were working with them on that and possibly leasing space in Grand Central Station.
Okay.
And so we were working with them on that. We had major kickback from the Downtown Business Improvement District. Major kickback from Rhonda Trusty.
Okay.
And
see, that to me, I always find that puzzling, just because the issue is they're in your businesses now, so you want to have a place where they can go.
So we had major kickback from them, yet we had all the services downtown supporting us. But at the same time we were doing this property came for sale at 4/2018 Street West.
Okay.
So we looked at the property and we thought, okay, this could, if you renovated this, tore down a few houses next to it, you could renovate this into a homeless shelter. We went and talked to those businesses.
Yeah.
Because we were getting kickback from the downtown business. So we went to talk to those businesses. Those businesses were surprisingly in favor of it.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, well, this is great. This is
not
not the response we're used to.
Yeah, I wasn't used to this, but okay, we can, all right. This might be good.
We didn't even really think of the West Hill because there's a huge bush, there's a division.
Okay.
So we didn't think of the West Hill.
Okay.
I apologize for that. We just didn't think of it.
No, fair enough.
Okay, there's a big.
Well, and who knows who owns what land up there?
So anyhow, so we made an offer on the building, knowing that if it wouldn't fly as a homeless shelter, we also could use it as a shop.
Yeah.
We own like a lot of properties.
Well, yeah, no doubt, right? Exactly. Hey.
So because we purchased the building, that allows us to make an application to City Council. So we made that application to City Council.
Okay.
And
that's where
that's where it died.
That's where it died.
But because there was a lot of people that were the residents of the West Hill that were opposed to it. And a lot of them had some good points.
Fair enough.
They had some good points, like,
Yeah.
and so,
There's always two sides.
exactly, and we listened to them, and yeah, that's some good points. You have some very good points there. So, and one of their good points was, why does the Business Improvement District have more, why are their voices louder than the residents?
Well, I was gonna say, I find that, you know, because you're saying that businesses are in favor of it, but then when it hits that political level, it's like,
So
Nope.
that was a good point. And so my take after that was, and when it didn't even get as a public, on the agenda as a public hearing, it just got
it
squashed.
just got squashed.
Because nobody seconded the motion, that's why.
Like, that must be so deflating, hey?
Well,
when you take the
it
effort
was.
and the time.
Because this has been a non-stop battle, and it's taken a lot of energy and a lot of resources from
A
our
lot of
organization.
years.
But it was like, okay, you know what, city council, there's an election. You're gonna have a new group in there. Some of you might be the same, some of you might be new. You need to decide this, and you need to decide it soon.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be a shelter in Prince Albert.
Yeah. And it seems to me like, I don't own a downtown business, and I'm not political like that, but I mean, like, if I'm looking at it, it's like, with the bulk of it's downtown, to have
We
it.
come with security.
Well, that's
24-hour security. We come with security. We come with security. They have a vehicle. They patrol the area.
Crime would drop just because of the
That's what-
presence alone, right?
That's what we think.
Well, that's what I mean, like, again, like, I always thought, like, drive down the stretch where Staples used to be by the mall, right? And you have all those, you know, abandoned, you talk about the abandoned buildings, abandoned
Right.
storefronts all the way down and then you got that apartment building at the end that's been boarded up for years.
Yeah.
And for me, I think, well, downtown core, if they're all hanging out there anyway, you have something like adjacent or close to that area, then it would kind of take, at night, you wouldn't have the,
It would take some pressure
it would,
off
it
that.
definitely would. And even like even like with the police services, you think that would be something
would
they would
take
be
some-
like, yeah.
It would take some pressure off. That's at least what we think.
Yeah.
Because you would be able to have enough beds. So right now, 45 beds isn't enough.
Yeah.
So people are having to hang out somewhere.
Well, that's what I mean.
Downtown's fairly popular
Oh, it is, absolutely,
to
right?
hang out. And
Well, it's busy, and I mean, like, if you're panhandling or doing whatever,
well, and so
right, it's high traffic area.
so many of the services are downtown. Like we
Yeah.
work together really closely with a lot of, like, with PAGC Urban Services and PA Indian Community Friendship Center,
And
and
Max Mall, right, you got social services.
you got
also.
everything is down there. Access Place.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly.
Like we could go on, and they're all agencies that work very closely together in serving the population.
Well, it seems like then, like, for me, looking at it, there's such a disconnect, because you have these services working together. It sounds like a lot of the businesses want this issue resolved in a positive way, like get a place somewhere. So it seems like when it goes across that, and this is my own little observation, but to me, it seems like once they cross that line into the political realm, it gets to be more of a, well, the citizens might not like this, is how I take it, right? Instead of just, you know, let's look at the humanity of it all, as opposed to, you know, this might cost me a couple votes, right? Because people are dying. Like, it's just,
And that's what's gonna
it's just-
happen this winter,
absolutely.
is there's not, like I said, there's 45 beds, and the demand far
Yeah.
exceeds the supply, and so what are we gonna do? There's 45 beds, there's nothing more we can do.
Well, that's the
So,
thing,
and we would support any other agency if somebody wanted to open a warming station, anything
Yeah.
to help.
Yeah.
And
No, I get that. So then I guess, like, now, so like there's an election coming up, right? So I've talking to a couple candidates, and homelessness has come up, and
yes,
they have some different viewpoints on how that would work out to be. But I'm thinking too, like, just for me, I can't. I'm still looking at the, you know, humanistic approach to all this, right? If it was your kid or your dad or your mom or whatever,
that's
right? Like, you know, it has a human face to it. It's not an it. Like, you know, I find that when especially politicians talk, it's a generalized term, but I mean, they don't mention the fact that they're actually people, right? Like, Yorga Street people, these are people with, you know,
these are people.
they're people, man.
And
They
if-
just want something to,
And you know, when you go down to the shelter, they're my favorite people. Like, I love going down there and having coffee and just visiting with people, and our staff love it. Our staff love working there. And
Yeah.
that's what the politicians, that's what a lot of, not just the politicians, I shouldn't say that, because we've had a lot of politicians that have really, really supported us. that have really supported us and been behind us. So, but people, it's more the public. It's
The perception of it?
the perception. And we invite people, you know, it just, have you ever stopped and talked to somebody who's homeless?
Yeah.
Have you, you know, they're not the big scary
It's true, like,
entity.
I've had more people say, it's like, you know, guys like, hey, can I go to the, oh man, I don't have anything. Oh, that's okay, God bless.
Exactly.
Right? They're not like, give me your wallet. Like, it's not like
It's not.
that. You know, I've lived here all of my 25 years. You know, I've been here, you know, my whole life, and I can count on one hand the amount of you know, bad experience I've had being confronted by things. And granted, I'm a bigger guy, maybe that matters, I don't know. But I mean, for the most part, they're all very plus it's like, no, that's okay, you know, God bless. And I mean, like, okay, this guy has nothing, right? Like, you know, and they're still saying, you know what, you have a good day anyway, man, thanks, you know, thanks for talking to me. I got that once too.
Our manager of our shelter, and she wouldn't mind me saying this, Nicole, is a 51-year-old woman who has no problem walking in there by herself and being with the clients.
Well, it's true, and the big thing is it's relationships, right? Like, it's the whole rapport. It's the fact they know it's a safe place. You guys are keeping it safe, but like you said, we got a population that might need more of a secure type model, right?
Yes, there is a population we can't serve, and that is the ones that are prone to violence, because we just can't. Because we have to keep our people safe.
Well, you know, and you're exactly right, as well you should. And I'm thinking too, like, it's you know, if the government looked at something, or someone looked at something to create something for them, because a lot of that time, then it goes back into like, you got your addictions, you got your mental health, you got your trauma.
I think they're looking at creating a complex needs.
Oh, that'd be
And they've done that
awesome.
in Saskatoon and Regina, and that would help that particular population group that we can't serve. We can serve most people. Yeah. Well, we don't have enough beds.
No,
we figure we need about 80 beds.
Yeah. Oh, probably absolutely.
Yeah, but we can figure we can serve 90%, but there's a 10% that the needs are too complex and the risk of violence is too high, where we can't have them in the shelter because they pose a risk to staff and other clients.
There's a threat there. There's a threat level.
And our shelter's also co-ed, and we've had, you know, people that we've had to say you're not welcome because they've sexually touched people that they shouldn't.
Or if someone has like a history of sexual trauma and then they're in there with someone, with
so
a man or a woman, whatever the case may be,
and
right? And then
our staff tries so hard to serve everybody, but there's just a little subsection that they can't.
I tell you, I was talking to a couple of candidates, and I said, I think this kind of work, you have to have a certain constitution, I think, because like there's a compassion there, like and that gets lost. I think, like, I've been in management for different places, I was in convoy, the higher you get in something, the more less it gets to be about the care part, and more it gets to be more about the fiscal responsibility, shall we say, right? And I think oftentimes the higher up you get, or however they look at it, that bottom line means more than that bottom line.
And that's so true. That's why those of us who work in this office, so this is our executive office and our admin office.
Okay.
So you've got.
That's a lovely facility.
So
that's quite nice, yeah.
We work right in a shelter, so our youth shelter's here. So we actually see clients, and we don't want to work away from the clients because we have to be reminded. Yeah. And we have to go down to the shelter, have coffee, and
boots on the ground.
Visit with people, boots on the ground, because if you silo, that's exactly what starts happening. You have to.
Then you're not looking at it like, I guess before they're not people anymore. We're just looking at
you're just looking at bottom line, and so that's, I guess, our appeal to the community is, remember, these are people. These are people's. They're people, and they're people's children, and they're people's sisters, and they're people's.
I just thought, too, it's just a matter of, I don't know, providence that I was born where I was and someone was born where they were. We didn't get to pick that. No. You know what I mean? So I mean, it really is. It's the luck of the draw.
It is.
It's like, oh, it's like, you know, yeah. I always found that too, where it's like there's such a human element. Like I like you know, I take the bus and I like to go walking down the riverbank and stuff like that. Like, how can you go down there? I get that. How can you go down there? It's like,
I know that's the misperception.
You know what I mean? What's going to happen down there? There's not a cabal in the bushes of homeless people that are going to.
No.
You know, like, that's what I mean. Most time it's like, hey, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, how you doing, right? you know, and then you just move on.
Exactly.
Like that's the thing, and it's such an, and then there would, you know, because look, you know what? There's people that aren't homeless that commit crimes, that damage property, cut holes in fences, right? Like this isn't just like, oh, if the homeless was fixed, we'd be crime free. That isn't how
No,
that works.
it's not
right?
all the. One of the big problems we have in Prince Albert is the gangs.
Yeah.
That does cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It is
Oh,
the
absolutely.
gangs. And the many of the people you see wandering around that are causing the problems are associated with gangs or
Well, it's true, right? Especially young people, right? It's like, okay, you gotta, you know, go punch 2 people in the head or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be, right? And I mean, or go break some windows, or like every once in a while on the weekend you hear, oh, 15 car windows got smashed out on Saturday, right? Like that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, like a lot of the things are not homeless specific. There's other factors at play. And like you said before, multifaceted, right? This is you know, like the onion analogy, right? The more layers you peel off, the more you cry, and it seems like the stronger that gets, right?
So another thing I want to bring up too is, and I love people's suggestions and ideas, but there's certain things a shelter needs physically. So you can't just throw a shelter anywhere.
Okay. Well, so
So
tell me more
you
about
need,
that.
So you need a nice big building with open space.
Okay.
Because that's a security thing. You're accepting people who are intoxicated or under the
You
influence.
gotta see them, right?
You gotta be able to see them. So, and we're right now our stats are showing about 50% of our clientele are coming in intoxicated, and
Okay.
about 50% aren't.
Okay.
So, but you gotta be able to see them.
Yeah.
You can't, like, this shelter's different here. This is a sober shelter, so everybody has rooms.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about that. But one that'll accept people who are under the influence, you have to be able to see them. So that's an important thing, that you have the big open areas. That's why apartment blocks don't work. You know, they'll bring up like old apartment blocks. No, apartment blocks don't
That
work.
makes sense. Well, they're all little, and they're all little. You don't know what's going on there. You can't see.
No,
them.
you have to have
Yeah.
big open areas. You have to have room for program space.
Yeah.
You have to have room for recreation.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
have to give people recreation.
Absolutely.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to have the program space. You have to have a place for nurse practitioners to come in. You have to have all that. You also have to have the cultural component. So that probably about 90%, and this is a guess, about 90% of the clientele that we're seeing in the shelter are Indigenous.
Yeah.
We need to have that cultural component. So we have an elder come in. We do a lot of cultural stuff, but in looking at a permanent location, that has to be built into it. We have to have the outside space to be able to do cultural activities. That's very important, that cultural piece is built into that. So there's a lot of things that come with a permanent location that maybe people just aren't aware of.
Yeah.
So you need an outdoor space, you need space for wide open space, like you need the wide open space inside. You need showers, you need a kitchen, you need program.
Yeah. You need. Yeah. No, that makes perfect
And
sense.
you need daylight. You
Yeah.
need some daylight, because
Yeah.
people need daylight.
They do.
You just can't warehouse people.
No, it's true. It's true. It's like I used to work with one of my old bosses. He used to say, you can't just hang them up wet and expect them to dry out in a closet, right? He would say stuff like that, and it's like, and I always thought, you're kind of out there, but he was true. It was true, because I mean, like, that's the thing. You have to have supports, and you mentioned something there about health, and I mean, like, that's true, because they come in, and the idea is, okay, especially, you know, we got the alcohol, the drug piece, right? About half. You got the 80% or 90% that's Indigenous clients, and given our geographical location, that's the way that it works. And but I find that the health part, because they might have, you know, they might have an STI, they might have, you know, health issues,
Oh, absolutely.
Hep C, right? You start looking at all those things too, and it's like, okay, now you got someone on the street. They're obviously not eating right. They're obviously doing alcohol or drugs. You got all these factors in play, and then their physical health. So to get that to a plane, you need to have those supports, right?
Absolutely. It's you need
Yeah.
that wraparound, and then once you have that, you can start moving people into housing. So we have our Homeward Bound program, which is our Housing First program, which is supportive wraparound housing.
Yeah.
So you can take somebody, once you stabilize them and they're ready to make that next step,
They can transition over.
they can transition there.
Yeah, Yeah, they do a lot of good work there.
And then it starts to move people along the continuum.
And for the individual too, if you get to a spot where all of a sudden health wise, that's getting taken care of. I'm eating, I'm getting sleep, right? Like my body is starting to kind of, I hate the term normalize, but you know what I mean. Like it starts to kind of figure that out. Then they get their own place, and then all of a sudden the change in them is different because this is my place. All of a sudden, things aren't as bleak as they were, right?
And then you can start working on education and employment.
Yes.
Then you can start working on that
and push them through, right?
Like it's
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, Donna.
And another thing we noticed too is, so in November of 2023, we received funding from the provincial government to be an enhanced homeless shelter, which allowed us to open 24 hours.
Nice.
And we saw the rates of violence just totally decrease because people weren't having to leave all day and be worried.
7 in the morning, you're out, but don't worry, you can come back at 8. But it's first come, first serve. So
that's
you
what
gotta
was
fight
happening.
For your spot, right?
So once we became 24 hours, what a huge difference! What a huge difference we saw. And we took, might not sound like that big of a number, but it is a big number. Between November 2023 and August of 2024, 61 people into permanent housing.
No, that is a big deal.
61
that's
people
a big deal.
that were rough sleeping on the street into permanent housing.
That's pretty awesome. Like things like that are stuff that they really should celebrate. Because man, that's pretty cool, Donna. That's really cool. Yeah.
So that's
pretty awesome.
So let's hope that after the election that we can have a permanent place named.
That'd be nice.
I know the province of Saskatchewan is willing to work towards funding to make that happen.
Nice.
To contribute, they're working towards contributing funding to make that happen. So we've identified a lot, and I'm gonna say it right here because this is what I think is the best location. Whether anybody else thinks that, but it's what I think. It's what a number of service providers think. There is a lot on the corner of 15th Street and Central Avenue. It's right next to the viaduct.
Yes.
It used to be parking for the Venice House.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
You know the lot I'm talking about. It is a city-owned lot. We think that is ideal because it's.
That's a good location.
It's a good
location. You got the bus transfer, not even half a block away.
Everything is right there.
Yeah.
Everything is right there.
That's pretty cool. When you mentioned Station Place earlier, I was thinking that. Hey,
that's right there. So that's where we think the best location would be.
That's cool. I was going to ask you that, and that makes a lot of sense.
That's where we think is in a new building because we've exhausted every. Yeah. We've never, even the one on 18th Street wasn't suitable. It would have had to have been renovated.
Yeah.
Like you'd have had to buy the houses next to it.
Well, that's the thing, but consider going back to like the cost. Consider the cost of renovating a place. Why don't we just build our own to our own specifications?
And then you can build it how it's supposed to be built, and you can build it with indigenous input. Yeah. So you can have and they've done that in other places. Have an indigenous consultant come in and speak to some of the things that it needs to be for the healing. Because, like I said, 90% of our clientele is indigenous. We need that as part of.
And that's something that's always kind of been missing is the fact that like they don't take into account like the culture or the belief system of the individual either. It's like, no, you're gonna do this, and it's a faith-based Christian program. This is what we're doing, but that might not be what I subscribe to, right?
Exactly. We're serving an indigenous population. That's who we need to listen to.
And this is where I think that like the shift is going, because because the fact you said provincial government's not looking okay, we're gonna throw some money into this. It takes a long time to get there, but like the fact that they're willing, and now it looks like that's happening, like that's a big deal. But to keep in mind, it's been about years and years and years to get to this point, but it's here. So at least they're starting to recognize that now.
The provincial government is for sure. So it's now putting the pieces. We need once this election happens with the city, they need to nail down a location.
Well, see, I was gonna say, like, what do you need locally then? Is it location? Do you need more support from the local political leaders?
Need the city of Prince Albert to approve. So any location of a shelter in the city of Prince Albert has to be approved through council. Has to go through council. So that's what we need, council
Okay.
to approve a location. If they approve a location, then we can start working with the provincial governments
Yeah.
to be able to, either renovate an existing building or build a new structure.
Well, it sounds good. It's like, because to me, it kind of sounds like the barrier kind of hits with that. And I'm not pointing the finger at City Hall, I'm not doing that, but I mean, like, it's just, it seems like the townsfolk are interested, except if it's in their backyard, but I mean, but the business people downtown are saying, look, man, like, this is gonna help us. And like, when you consider the cost of the police being called out to pick up the guys, or, you know, in the hospital, they go through ER because they gotta get checked
Yeah.
out, like, you start adding up all those costs, and the next thing, is it really more cost effective to run it like it is, or should we just take the bullet, do it now, and then it's set up, and then next year those costs drop?
Exactly.
Because that's, yeah, like, then I'm not a journalist, I'm just an unemployable counselor, but you know what I mean? It's no, that sounds great, Donna. Like, I gotta say, like, it sounds like there's a lot of work to do, but man, I think Prince Albert is better off.
If we can just get the spot,
Yeah.
then we can do the work. The people can come together and we can do the work, but we need the spot.
Well, I know, like, the two candidates spoke a lot, one a little more than the other, but she mentioned a lot about homelessness and stuff like that, and her willingness to help. And with talking to the other one as well, he was talked about it more from a business aspect. So I mean, I think there's room to work there with that. And I haven't talked to Mayor Dion about this yet, but I'm hoping to get his take on it, because this is a big issue, right?
Oh yeah, and we still believe that we can benefit the businesses downtown.
Oh, absolutely. If I had a business downtown and I had these issues now, and I knew there was somewhere that, okay, so they're gonna go, there's supports
Yes.
there, they can go with that, you know, if it's, you know,
And
if
we
it
have
goes
security.
well. And security.
We come with security.
And security, you come with a guard. I know, that's what I mean. So it's like, okay, for a business owner, I'm like, yeah, for me, I'd be like, I wanna do this now, because
And
it saves me the headache and the hassle, because a lot of it is just kind of nuisance type crimes, right? Like, they're not hauling safes out, they might break a window, or, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, that would, I think, eliminate a good chunk of that stuff.
And what would a business say if another business was gonna open downtown and they were gonna employ like 25 to 30 people at that business? Wouldn't that business be happy?
Absolutely.
Well, that's what we would employ.
When they talk about revitalizing downtown, we have to talk about homeless being all so the one barrier to being a successful place. Well, then why don't you build something so they can go to it, right?
Right.
If you build it, they will come. So
And we have ways of, like, you know, we build a fence and we have privacy lattice so people can have their privacy, but also privacy for the businesses.
Exactly.
So the customers aren't intimidated. Like
there's ways around it.
There's absolutely.
It wasn't if you want it, and it kind of sounds
We
like some of the stuff.
successfully ran our house as a 40-bed homeless shelter
Wow.
on the corner of First Avenue
Yeah.
and 15th Street for years. Never had any complaints,
Well,
never
that's
had
like-
any problems.
And where you're
But people forget that.
well, not saying and where you're looking at moving is just literally across the street
Yeah.
and down, not even half a block.
Exactly.
So what's the difference? And it's not
Exactly.
taking up, you know, it's not taking any real estate down, you know, downtown. Nothing's built there anyway. It's been a vacant parking lot since I can remember.
And we'll bring people down, we'll bring our staff down, we can form partnerships downtown.
Well, and I like the idea of how many people are sleeping under that viaduct right now.
Oh, lots, I have pictures.
I know. That's what I mean. And it's like, build a place, you know.
They're right there, I have pictures of like some pretty good encampments right by the
Yeah.
lot we wanna build it on.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Just I know. Even driving past, you can see when you go down the viaduct, even the roofs of some of the buildings, you can see where people have kind of left over and had
I
little
know,
stuff set
cause I
up
walk
there.
downtown.
Yeah, no, me too. And it's like you see that stuff, and it's like, holy, like, you know, that's some parkour stuff.
I know,
couldn't do that.
I walk downtown to our locations and I know exactly where you're talking about and I'm like, how did that even happen? That's a pretty big leap.
I know that's pretty. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I was thinking, you know,
No.
that's what I mean. Like, but you know, if you need a place to stay, man, it shows you the lengths people will go just to be safe.
Absolutely.
Because that's what I look at that and I think that's about safety to me. No one can get to me
And-
up here.
Another thing I wanna talk about too,
Sure.
is, if I have 2 seconds,
No, absolutely, Donna.
is encampments.
Okay.
So, no, encampments aren't great. And they're not a solution and they can be dangerous. However, every time an encampment is tore down, it makes it somebody else's problem.
Yeah, then it's just
We don't have room at the shelter. We have 45 beds. They're full. They're already full. And so there's no, so if you tear down a shelter, where are they going?
Well, I'm not saying then there's such a like it's like hooray,
To
they
tear
got
down
rid of
a-
this encampment. Okay, well now these guys and gals are all throughout the whole city.
Yeah, where are they going?
Where are they going? They got nowhere to go now.
That's my thing. If you're
Yeah.
going to go in and tear down a shelter, where are they going to go? Are they gonna are they gonna sleep in doorways? Are they going to break into people's houses? Where are they going to go? And then we get blamed because people think they're our clients. Well, no, they're not.
Well, and that's the thing. It's all about that perception piece. Hey, when it goes down to it, it's like, well, this didn't happen. Well, obviously that's not working then because this isn't happening. I'm like, well, we got nothing. Like, there's nothing to do with that. I know from working in addictions and stuff what happened where it's like, okay, but they weren't connected to us. But yet it's like it's your fault.
Yeah,
this
that
happened,
happens
right?
to us all the time.
Absolutely, right?
All the time.
Just gets the blame for
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, okay, it's a social issue.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone has to work together there. And I mean, like too, like even if you're running a business downtown or even running the city, you got to think what's best for the city. And like a lot of this stuff is like, well, homeless people don't really vote, and I think that might have a lot to do with it because I bet you if they voted, I bet you something might be done a little bit quicker with some of this stuff. But yeah, like it's such a huge issue. But I'm glad there's places like you, Donna, man. Just you talking to me today about all this stuff. Like, yes,
I love talking about this stuff.
Well, I know it's cool. I know. I was thinking I got to talk to Donna Brooks about this because, man.
I love talking about this
Yeah.
stuff. I wish I could just do this all day.
I know we do, but it's like because there is such a need, right? And I mean, like, and if we take care of and honestly, whatever happened to if we take care of our less fortunate or our most vulnerable people, that's not just in my mind. That just enriches the whole
absolutely
place,
it
right?
does.
Because there's folks. I remember I had an old client he was an older gentleman, but man, he had a degree in commerce. He had like he was in the army, like, you know, and like you say, going there having coffee. I used to love that too. I'd go in there, I'd talk to some of the folks. They would say, hey, one guy talked about he saw the Doors play in Vancouver in 1969, and he's talking about all this cool stuff that he saw, and you know, and like. Yeah, like they have lives too. They have families.
Exactly.
They have experiences.
And that's what people forget.
Absolutely.
And you know, one of the things that bothers me, and I'm going to say this too,
Sure,
because it
absolutely.
bothers me, and I'm an animal lover. You met my
Oh, absolutely. No, us too.
and
Yeah.
I donate and support
Yeah.
to the SPCA. I love the SPCA.
Yeah.
But
Us too.
but
Yeah.
what is wrong with our community when you drive by the SPCA and they have a wonderful, beautiful big shelter, and we have a better shelter for our homeless animals in Prince Albert than we do our people?
It says a lot about.
So what,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
people need to stop and think about that.
Yeah, you're right.
Like we do. And that's all, you know, that's all we're trying to do is have,
Well, everyone should have the right to
they
some
should,
dignity,
they
right?
should have the right to choose. Right now,
Absolutely.
people don't have the right to choose.
Yeah.
They're saying that people say people choose homelessness. Right now, they don't even have the right to choose because we don't have enough shelter spaces.
It's true.
You could choose. They're saying, well, they could choose to be on the street or they could choose not to. That's not true. There's not enough shelter spaces. They don't even have that choice.
That's true. And you know, and that's the thing, and it's not just like people look at it, go like the low rung of society or however a negative phrase they want to say about those individuals. But I mean, you know, with COVID, a lot of people, the cost jumped up so much where people couldn't afford to rent. They couldn't afford to keep their house, right?
Exactly.
You know, like man, COVID hit me hard too in that regard. It's like all of a sudden your mortgage jumps like $400, and it's like what the, you know.
The groceries, the inflation,
Absolutely.
everything.
And it's like it's not just these guys made choices. Yeah, they, you know, true, but you got trauma, you got addiction,
Everything.
mental health, all that jazz, and then too, you put the world literally stopped for about a couple months, and then everything skyrocketed. So, you know, no one's hiring, everyone's scared, right, of getting ill, so no one's talking to anybody. People can't afford to make their payments. People are getting
It
kicked
was
out.
the perfect storm.
It was, and it just, and I mean, it's sad that it would take, I think, because man, we've had homelessness and people suffering, like you said, 2012, 2011, 2012,
Yes.
right? There's only lost those 4 people. So that predates COVID by 8 years. So you've been fighting that good fight up to that. Then we had like this, you know, cataclysmic world event, and all of a sudden homelessness, you know, really started
It
to hit
exploded,
everybody.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. No. That's. I'm a big firm believer. I like looking back and kind of seeing where you can kind of see how the dominoes fell here. And I mean, like, you know, there's people I know that work 2 jobs but will sleep in their car because they can't afford an apartment or they can't afford a place.
I know people sleeping in their car.
Yeah. And I mean, it's more.
And
It's more common than you would
yeah.
think. Absolutely. Right? It's insane.
it is insane.
But you know what, Donna? I could literally talk to you about
I
this all
know.
day too. I really enjoy this stuff. I was really excited when you agreed to talk to me.
Oh, I'll talk to you anytime.
Because all fantastic. Well, maybe we'll meet again and you can talk to me more about your other programs because I
Okay.
think you guys do so much good work here, and I would really like to get that out in our little corner of the world so people can at least hear from you directly and say, hey man, this is what we're all about. This is what we want to do.
Yeah, go on our website.
Yeah, check out the YMCA website. Is that what it is?
YWCA.
YWCA.
Check out our website. You can see all our programs.
Right on. Absolutely. Check out Donna's website, YWCA. Check that out. And well, thank you, Donna.
Oh,
I can't
thank
thank you
you.
enough
Thank
for
you.
doing this. And Corey Rennie, unemployable counselor. Thanks for watching. And peace and take care of each other.
Hi, thank you for watching. If you want to know more about the YWCA, I strongly suggest you check out their website, YWCA, and then you'll find out about all their programs, all their initiatives, everything they're trying to do. They're a non-profit, so I'm sure, you know, it's a shelter, so they could always use things like clothes, especially with winter coming, things of that nature. So if you have anything, check out the website, contact your nearest YWCA location, and see if they need anything, and see if maybe there's some stuff you're thinking about getting rid of. Maybe somebody could use it. But having said that, again, I can't thank Donna Brooks enough for taking the time out of the day to have us in there. We got to meet some cute puppies. We got to talk to some of the staff, and I know my team and I came away with a much better understanding of what it is Donna does, how she sees her organization and all of its fingers out in the community, how they all work together for a common good, and that is trying to make sure people have a warm, safe place to sleep, and that they can move through the continuum of care to not be in that situation anymore. And that requires, as Donna mentioned, a lot of support, a lot of skill building, asset building. It's a multifaceted, complex issue, clearly. So again, thank you, Donna. Thank you everyone that tuned in. Check out the YWCA website. And if you like this video and you want to see more content, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out with the channel and enables us to keep doing stuff like this. Focus on issues that are important to the people of Prince Albert and surrounding area. I'm Corey Rennie. I am the unemployable counselor, saying peace, love, and let's just be nice to each other, man. People are going through stuff that we have no idea, so a little kindness can go a long way. Take care and stay warm.